Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show, a podcast by SaaStock. Here we interview SaaS founders from around the world who've been there and done that, as they share the ins and outs of how they built their businesses, their operations, their path to securing investment, and more. Our mission with the podcast is to help you, the founder, learn how to scale your SaaS, maintain your well-being, and navigate the complexities of this ever-changing industry. I'm your host, Alex Theuma, and together we'll explore the good, the bad, and the ugly in the journey to SaaS success. Welcome back to the SaaS Revolution Show. I am your host, Alex Theuma, CEO, founder of SaaStock. Fresh off the back of SaaS Europe 2024, and delighted to be joined by Philippe Botteri from Accel, who was also there in Dublin for another SaaS Europe. How are you doing, Philippe? Good to see you.
Yeah, no, my pleasure to be back on the show, Alex.
Good to have you. So we always kind of start I know you've been on the podcast a couple of times now, for sure. But we obviously get fresh listeners in, and perhaps whether they're not in Europe or they're not following the SaaS and the VC world as closely as I, it would be good to know who is Philippe Botteri and tell us a little bit about Axel if they don't already know.
Sure. So happy to give you a quick overview. So Axel is we're a global venture firm. Started in Silicon Valley about 40 years ago. We've been on the ground in Europe for since 2000. So we're going to celebrate our 25th anniversary next year. And we also have an office in India. So we're a venture firm with a truly global network. And it is that network that we give to our portfolio companies, and hopefully which gives them a strong competitive advantage. And we do anything from $1 million seed to $300 million pre-IPO investment. And we focus on three main areas. The first one is anything around, cloud computing, software, SaaS, AI, and cyber, which is about, half or two-thirds of what we do. The other one is digital consumer. The third one is fintech. And on my side, I've been with the firm for the past 13 years now. And a lot of my work has been in the first bucket. So I've invested in companies like DocuSign, UiPath, Algolia, Chainalysis, Doctolib, more recently in AI, invested in Synthesia in London, and H, which is building fundamental agentic model in Paris.
I was trying to count how many unicorns that was, Philippe, but maybe you know better than I at the top of your head.
Actually, I don't. I think it's probably close to 10 now.
Close to 10, yeah. It sounds about right, and obviously some great names there. And you mentioned obviously Accel having an office in India. So outside of the US and Europe, do you personally or Accel see that India is then maybe the next biggest market in SaaS?
Well, I think we've always been a big believer of the fact that great company can come from anywhere in the world. And if you look at India, we're a seed investor in Flipkart, massive e-commerce company. We're also a very early investor in Freshworks, and we have a very strong SaaS portfolio. So yeah, in India has shown that they can build some very strong businesses, and we do believe that I think the world is flat now, and innovation can really come from anywhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess a couple of points on that is, one, there has been for many years clamor for SaaStock to do a conference in India, and so certainly to date, it's not something I've pursued, but we obviously see, you mentioned, Freshworks, Chargebee, and, many others have come out of India, and there's a big hub in Chennai and, other places. We do SaaStock local community events there, but maybe something, to explore in the future. And then you talk about, obviously, the world being flat in terms of innovation can come from anywhere. And I think certainly, again, at SaaStock Europe, it was shown pre-event when I was looking at where are the attendees coming from. And we had attendees coming from, founders coming from 60 different countries, including, maybe countries I wouldn't have expected, but perhaps these days we should, like Afghanistan and Panama and Venezuela and I don't know why, but it should stop surprising me. But it's great to see SaaS kind of being built from anywhere. And you're obviously, well, both of us we're just back from SaaStock Europe, which was last week in Dublin. And annually you do your Accel Euroscape cloud report. And we're going to talk about that. But outside of that, and the learnings and all the research that you put into the report, I know you were only there on Wednesday. Did you get any observations or learnings, from the event or speaking to anyone just in general around the SaaS market outside of obviously your research for the Cloud Euroscape?
Yeah, I mean, I caught up with many founders during that day. It was great to be in town and be able to catch up in person. And I think what's very clear in this discussion is either new founder today are trying to build AI first companies, or existing founder of more mature companies are trying to figure out how they can leverage the new model, the new generative AI model, to really change the value that they are delivering. So I would say to some extent it was all about AI and how that is transforming the software industry right now.
Yeah. Well, which I guess then obviously leads nicely into the fact that you presented the 2024 Accel Euroscape report at SaaStock, and I think it's the seventh time that's been presented. I think the first year it was at the SaaS Society event, and then has been
we started
on
in 2016.
2016. This is how old SaaStock is, and it's amazing to think about that. And so this year's title, and you guys, whether it's yourself, your marketing team, you always come up with some lovely titles for the Euroscape. Do you remember the title of the first one? I think it had was it the Star Wars theme, the first one?
Yeah, the first one in 2016, if you remember, that was when Star Wars was the new Star Wars were coming up, and so it was called Europe Awakens.
Okay, yeah.
That was really the beginning of SaaS in Europe, and I think it was, and that's where SaaStock was the first gathering of this emerging European SaaS founders. It was a very exciting time. I mean, at the time, the venture market in Europe for cloud and SaaS was just $1 billion. So It tells you how far we've gone since then.
Yeah, no, indeed, and this year's title is AI is Eating Software. And again, I guess kind of like no surprises. It also sounds a little bit ominous as well. But I guess, why did you guys kind of pick this title, and maybe sort of build upon that?
Yeah, sure. We spent a lot of time every year thinking about how to name this report, and want to find a title that really reflects what we're seeing in the market, perhaps in a more dramatic way. And I think this year, if you look at what happened in the software market, I mean, it's all about AI. I mean, AI is sucking the air out of the software room, and it has emerged as the main driver of value creation, both on the public market and also on the private market. So, I mean, if we look at the public market, look at the NASDAQ in the past year, there's around close to 8.5 trillion of value created, and more than 5.3 trillion of that is just coming from 6 companies, which are obviously Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Alphabet, Amazon, and Meta. And it's all driven by their activity and performance in AI, right? So that's what we're seeing on the public market. And then if you're looking at private funding and private market, it's very similar. So in 2024, we estimate that market venture funding, so private venture funding in cloud companies, to be around $80 billion, between Europe and the US, and basically 40% of that is just focused on generative AI. And so if you take out that number, basically we're back to where we were in 2020. And if you add that number, we're 65% higher than 2020, right?
Yeah.
And we're also growing back from 2023, which is the first year that now venture cloud financing is up after the peak of 2021. So AI is really driving a lot of the value that we're seeing in the cloud and software market. And what's also very interesting is that a lot of the investments are very concentrated, right? A lot of the value is very concentrated. So we're seeing in the public market, we're talking about 6 companies really reaping most of the fruits. And if you look at the private market, just look at the past couple of years, there's been $56 billion invested in AI companies, and 2/3 of that has gone into the top 6 companies of each region of the US and Europe. And also 2/3 of that money has gone into foundation models. So what we're seeing is AI is really driving the growth and very concentrated in a very small number of companies, both in the US and Europe.
And a lot of interesting points there. And I guess with you mentioned like on the NASDAQ and, probably these big 6 companies, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, etc., are driving the majority, of that growth. I guess, but like if you were investing in the NASDAQ or S&P 500, why not just invest in those 6 companies? It could be, something to consider. But as you say, then outside of that, like the growth is where I think, back to like 2020 levels, just on, I guess, like the non-AI portion of that. So then seeing, over really kind of the last 4 years, the fluctuations, in the SaaS market, that we've had. And, as we look forward, I guess, everybody, and rightly so, is jumping onto the AI train, both the existing mature SaaS companies and I think like all new SaaS companies that are born today will probably natively have to be AI first. And if they're not, I'm not necessarily sure what they're doing. But with that, and with the, I guess, kind of there are or tailwinds, in AI, then, how do you see, I know we're looking at 2024, but perhaps like the future, for SaaS here, how like we can maybe capitalize, on AI to help really drive the growth, drive more investment, even outside of foundational models?
Yeah, no, that is a very good question. I mean, if you look at, the public software companies, like we track 100 of them in our, Euroscape public index, and that index, the average growth rate, for this index, the average growth rate went from 47% in Q1 2021 to 15% in the most recent quarters, right? So there's been a huge deceleration in software. I think the reason for that, I think, is a combination of different things. One, I think there is definitely some macroeconomic uncertainty, which is kind of making companies, think twice before releasing some budget. Two, there's been a lot of software, spend in 2021, 2022. So there is a bit of a digestion phase of all the software that has been bought at that time. And there is also a rationalization that's happening where companies are saying, well, do I need, 5 different communication tools? Well, probably not. So now I'm going to just go to one, and they tend to consolidate on the big software platform. And the last effect that we're seeing is obviously companies are They want to invest in AI. They want to test AI. They have to free up some budget. And so we're seeing that the median growth of IT budget, excluding AI, is down 17% versus the Gen AI budget is up like 30%. So there is a big, there's a lot of pressure on spend that's happening. That explains why growth has been going down. So now if I look forward, I say, well, what can reignite the growth on the software side? I think if I look back at what we have seen in the past couple of years in Gen AI, we have seen a lot of models, evolving pretty fast, but focused on text, right? I mean, LLMs or maybe images, etc. But they're basically human input and output models for a lot of them. At least that's where kind of the value is being created, and so they're not, they're helpful in some areas, right? And I think we're seeing a lot of all the text driven interaction you have in an enterprise, especially customer support, huge impacts, writing code, huge impact, be able to create content for legal or create document, etc. Huge impact. So that phase, I think, is what happened in the past couple of years. Now, what we're seeing is that the new models that are being released, and actually Anthropic made a big announcement yesterday. They released their first agentic model who are able to interact with applications. And, this is the start of the agentic revolution, meaning now we're going to see models who can interact with application. So I think Anthropic made an announcement. Edge that I mentioned earlier is probably going to release their own agentic model in the next couple of months. I'm sure OpenAI and Microsoft made some announcement, but I'm sure they're going to release more, in the coming months. So for me, 2025 is going to be the year of the agentic revolution. And that means that software companies will have access to models who can interact with applications and increase the level of automation that they can provide. And so we're going to see these models integrated into software and being a key part of any software being developed next year. And I think that's what's going to drive the momentum, hopefully, again, of all these software companies, at least for the one who are going to be successful at embracing, these new technologies. And
I guess this is not specifically sort of AI, but you also mentioned, I think within your report, that, the era of high software growth, is fading away, right? And it leaves no other choice for companies but to focus on profitability, all right? With that, it is, again, I guess kind of hard to say, you don't necessarily have a crystal ball, but you're really well placed, within the ecosystem to comment on this. But do you think this is permanent? And if companies are focusing on profitability, I mean, again, there's probably going to be an impact on venture capital, right? Less being raised. And how do you perceive that as being a good thing? I know a lot of VCs say, we don't want, companies to take our money, and, we prefer, companies to, focus on, efficiencies, but obviously you're always looking for that next kind of unicorn or decacorn. But yeah, what are your thoughts kind of around this, and how long? I guess it's hard to say, but are we going to be in this era where companies are really focusing on this efficiency, profitability, which is obviously a good thing, but again, the implications, how do you see that for the software market?
Sure. I mean, as I say, I think for now we're in a phase where there's a lot of pressure on spend. And so when growth is slowing down, you have no choice but focus on profitability. That's kind of how you can maintain your valuation. I think in 2025, I think as this company will integrate the new agentic models, my guess is that that's going to reignite the growth rates, at least for some of them. And as soon as you start to grow, I think, of course, it's better to focus on growth than just profitability. So I would expect that the focus hopefully will shift back to growth by the end of next year.
You've commented on the podcast, but also in the report that, AI investments are pushing venture funding back up. And I think you mentioned it's something like 40%, roughly thereabouts of like the software market or VC is going into, AI investment. And that may well sort of increase. But given the different levels of like AI, you talk about foundational models, agentic models, etc. If you're, let's say, a pure play enterprise software company that has like an AI component, like how interesting is that for you and for other VCs that are investing? So I guess you mentioned like H and Anthropic and so on. Like what's it exciting for you and for VCs to invest in within AI, and maybe what's less exciting?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the AI world, there are different layers, right? You have the foundational models, you have the tools that are used to basically make it easier for companies to use these models. So companies like Scale, Vercel, Longchain, Hugging Face, Fireworks, etc. Then on top of that, you have the AI application who are leveraging existing model and, building product workflow on top of it, to make this product deliver the value required in their specific field. So we're basically looking at all the three part, of this stack. And obviously on the foundational model side, it's much harder to create this company because they need a lot of capital. So we probably don't expect a lot of new companies to emerge. I mean, we are seeing right now, companies that are starting, who would like to build, foundational model for tabular model, for tabular data. So we're seeing, some specialized models that are starting to be built. But overall, I would say that that's not where we expect the biggest, the largest growth in terms of number of companies. Still, I think it will be a big pool of capital. And then you have the tooling and apps, which we're, spending a lot of time right now, especially on the app layer where, I mean, all companies are being created right now. They're AI first, and they want to disrupt the incumbents, right? The traditional software company. And the question is, are they going to succeed or not? And I think that's going to depend on specific sector, right? I mean, if you look at CRM and you say, I want to be the AI first CRM, I think that's going to be more challenging to displace Salesforce, right? Which before all of the systems of record, like these are very hard to switch, and Salesforce is going to be working on adding its AI feature, and probably that's going to be good enough, most likely. In other areas, I mean, there are areas where actually being AI first is going to give this company like a very strong advantage. I mean, if you look at Synthesia, for example, which is turning, any text or content into an engaging video with an avatar, I mean, that is radically changing the paradigm of content production for companies. So we think that this is a space where actually an AI-first approach makes a lot of sense. So we'll have to see how that play out. But I think the next few years will be kind of this this friction between the AI-first company that will want to try and achieve dominance and the legacy player who are going to try to incorporate this model and stay relevant.
Thanks for sharing that. And in terms of the report, and I guess getting back to like good naming, there's the game of AI Thrones. All right, and I think we were talking about, is it going to be a winner takes all market, right? So perhaps you can share a little bit more about that section of the report.
Sure. I think what we're seeing right now in AI is the emergence of what we call three different leagues, right? You have the tech titans, so Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Apple, who can spend tens of billions of dollars a year for their AI infrastructure and efforts. Then you have the AI majors who are, OpenAI, Anthropic, and X, who can spend billions of dollars, a few billions of dollars per year. And then you have the AI challengers. So it's the Mistral, the Cohere, Poolside, Edge, Quietai, 11 Labs, who can spend tens to hundreds of millions of dollars per year. So we have 3 different leagues with an order of magnitude of spend between each of them. And so the question is, who is gonna win, right? And is money gonna be enough to basically make this race a winner take all? And actually, we don't think so. We don't think so because money helps you build the largest, most powerful model, but that also means that these models have longer inference time, longer latency, and higher inference costs. And for a lot of applications, actually having a very short latency and a very low cost is going to be critical, especially when you want to start to embed this model into automated application, because then the number of events you need to process is very high, and the latency is really critical to make sure that everything works properly. So we think that there is going to be room for more specialized models that are not going to cost tens of billions of dollars to build, and that there is room for this company to really build category leadership in specific part of the market. And also think that some of the challengers are very well positioned to raise a lot more capital, in the coming years and potentially change league as well, right? So I think it is, we're still at the very early innings of the race, and I look forward to see what's going to happen.
Me too. And as you go through the Cloud Euroscape report, at the end there's always the unveiling of the Cloud 100. And can you explain a little bit more about what the Cloud 100 is? How do the companies get to be a part of it? And perhaps kind of further, for the founders that are listening, that are running startups here, just to get maybe a bit of an insight of maybe what it takes. What is the criteria to become a Cloud 100 company?
Sure. So every year we do this exercise of looking at all the cloud and SaaS companies that emerge from Europe and try to bring a classification of which one we think are the top 100 and classify them by category. And we call that the Accel Euroscape. And the way, it's always hard, right, to categorize companies, and we've met with a lot of these founders, and the selection is always difficult, but we try to focus on what the attractiveness of the market, size of the market from our perspective, look at the product and company differentiation, try to assess the complementarity and strength of the team, and obviously any financial metrics that we have in terms of employee growth, the ARR growth, and the momentum and velocity that these companies have in the market. And so we use that to rank them and classify them, and that's kind of how we get to the list of 100.
Some of the companies that sort of made it this year, and maybe even talk about, I think we mentioned in the report that again, and maybe it was 7 or 8 of the companies like Muse, I think, which were on the Cloud 100, so last year, made it to unicorn status, so whether it was last year or previous years. But yeah, perhaps pull out or sort of highlight maybe some of the companies that made it and shed some light on those, and I guess kind of maybe where they're at in their stage of their SaaS journey.
Yeah, sure. So this, despite being of the highs of 2021, we had 7 companies from our Euroscape, which became unicorn. It was Cyera, which is a cloud data security, which probably is one of the fastest growing cybersecurity that we have seen. And, it's not really surprising because, data is so important, especially in the world of AI. And, with the shift to the cloud, there is a need to a new set of tools to really understand where the data is. Because it's super easy for any developer to flip a switch and create a new data store, pull some customer data in it, do some experiment, forget about it. And suddenly, you have this phantom store with, potentially PAI customer data, and no one knows where it is, right? So it's very important for a company to be able to assess, how many data stores do they have, where are they, and be able to understand what kind of data is in the data store. And what Cyera has done very well is, they have the best data classification engine. And so with 95, 97% accuracy, they can tell you exactly the type of data that you have, where it is, and what kind of security policy and posture you need to have to basically protect this data. So I think it's something that's been, in very, very high demand in this AI world. Then we have, company like Mistral, of course, which, no need to describe what they do. Done a very good job at pushing their models and reaching the world stage. 11 Labs in the AI category as well, which is providing technology to AI technology to clone voice and produce digital voice, which is super interesting. Pigment on the financial side, Penny Lane, accounting, data snipers, and Excel plugging for our accountant as well, and Muse, as you mentioned. So super exciting to see a good number of these companies just making it. So it's been always super exciting to see how the companies we've picked, see how they evolve over time.
Yeah, very much so. And certainly a few of those have spoken at SaaStock, Muse, and Pigment for sure, and great to see them on their journey and from, I guess, Series A companies to where they are now. And so, where can people find the report, Philippe, if they want to go and read this and dig into it and get some learnings around how AI is eating software and what they can do about it?
Yeah, so it's very easy. So you can go to my LinkedIn profile, so Philippe Botteri, to find it, or you can go to the Accel.com website /Euroscape, and you will find the 2024 version as well as all the version from down to 2016. If you want to have a quick look at the history of software for the past close to 10 years now.
Yeah, very much so. Well, obviously, thank you so much for doing this report every year. It's a very valuable resource, and also for sharing it at SaaStock and the SaaStock community, and then to the wider SaaS and now AI ecosystem. So really appreciate all the efforts that you guys go to creating that and publishing that out every year. As we sort of wrap up, Philippe, maybe just and it doesn't have to be a positive note, but how positive are you really feeling about the SaaS market in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, I'm super excited for what's next to come. I think AI is a tectonic shift that is bringing a level of change that we've not seen before in technology. Even if you look at the different paradigm shifts, from cloud to mobile, etc. I don't think something has been as powerful as AI. I think AI has a potential to redefine how code is written, right? I think right now we have models who can do code completion. In the future, we'll have codes who can write application, and then coding is going to turn into writing specifications instead of writing code. And there's a very exciting company which was in the Euroscape this year called Tessel. It was created by the founder of Nick, who is exactly addressing this problem. So it's going to be a very interesting developer tool that we'll see sometime next year. And I think the agentic revolution, as I mentioned, is something that is really gonna change the productivity potential of all the software application. And I think that's going to give a big boost to the ecosystem. So yeah, net, I am super excited for what's to come in 2025 and beyond.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Philippe Botteri, for joining us on the SaaS Revolution Show today and sharing with our audience the findings from this year's Cloud Euroscape report.
Thank you, Alex. My pleasure to be here.